All right, here we are at Fantasy Football Now on the FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media. I'm Jeff Thidoff. Thanks so much for tuning in. Follow me on Twitter at FitHappens. He is Chad Rink. You can follow him at Chad Ocho Rinko. We got a lot to get into today, but Chad, the big news that everyone started to freak out about was Joe Burrow, right? Because he goes down. They say it's a non-contact calf injury, but it's the calf he had a sleeve on, which made people freak out even more. Doesn't sound like it's too serious, but anytime you see Joe Burrow was being carted off the field, it kind of freaks people out who are Joe Burrow owners or have drafted Joe Burrow or getting ready to draft Joe Burrow also.
Yeah, indeed. And I got that message. I got a buddy of mine that is an athletic. He's as an editor, and he has the Bengals and stuff. So he's like, "Hey, see this?" And I was like, "Oh no!" And I was looking up stuff, and at first it looked back. We weren't really sure, and then it looks like now it's just a calf strain. I just saw. So, I doubt he'll play in the preseason, but that's a huge relief. My oldest son, who's married, he's out of the house. So he was texting me and stuff. He's a huge Bengals fan, so he's freaking out. He's like, "I'm not ready for a Trevor Siemian season." I was like, Nobody is.
No. And that's because Burrow, if he misses any significant time, it really deflates the value of Jamar Chase, of T. Higgins. Even Joe Mixon, the whole entire Bengals offense takes a huge hit if Joe Burrow's not out there. Like I said, it sounds like he dodged a bullet. I don't see him doing a whole lot more in preseason. I would think they'd be extra careful with him because of how much he means. And on top of that, he's also working on negotiating a mega contract that will eclipse Justin Herbert. There's a lot of moving pieces to this.
Yeah, and if you're in the Burrow camp, you're like, "Hey, let's just wait for the season." And
right.
They know, like and it's good to get the reps in, but these guys, it doesn't take them much to get back, and he can still throw to these guys and not really have to do much on his calf. So it's interesting to notice then if this makes the Bengals go out and maybe get Wentz or Matt Ryan just to back up. I mean, not that they're world beaters, but I think either one, if you throw them into that offense, they could at least be serviceable. Trevor Siemian, I think, is just bad. And I looked it up today because I was like, I don't know who their backups are, and their third string I'd heard of, but I can't remember now who it is. So,
well, Matt Ryan, I saw him announced as a CBS analyst this year. The other day they put out a list of all their CBS guys doing games, and Matt Ryan was on that list. Okay. But the other one, that someone else who's out there, who's the all-time perennial backup, who's a free agent now, is Chase Daniel. He's a free agent also right now. So he's somebody who's made, I heard David Patrick talk about this the other day, that Chase Daniels made more in his career than Derrick Henry has.
That's crazy.
Just amazing.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's a stupid stat right there, yes.
Yeah.
Another injury, too, and I'm not sure how you approach this. I want to get your take on it, but Jalen Ramsey goes down with a knee injury for Miami, and he was a big addition for them and a big piece of what they were going to try to do going forward. And now they said it's not an ACL, I don't think, but it's they said those 6 to 8 weeks, and another report came out and said he'll be back by December for sure, which is that's a big difference. 6 to 8 weeks or December is a big gap there. But let's say you find out he's out till December. And I know, look, typically we don't draft defenses till the end of the draft anyway. We shouldn't, at least. But how much does one player like Jalen Ramsey affect where you'd rank the Dolphins, or does it affect it at all?
I think if you're looking at defenses, it's really more pass rush guys, I think, are huge. If like the Browns would lose Myles Garrett, then you're like, oh, well, they're not going to get the quarterback. Ramsey is huge, but I think you can mask those type of guys a little bit better if you get a good pass rush. So I don't really take it in. When I go defenses, I really look at a lot of times just who they're playing. Like I know the Saints, if you look at the quarterbacks the Saints face this year,
yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Like they should be getting 3 picks a game. So that's the bigger one. And then like obviously like the Jets are teams where it's like, okay, they're just good. And you want to get those guys.
When we go to a thing like I've done this in leagues before and had success with it, but the streaming a defense thing where every week you pick a new one up or whatever. You pick whoever's there, and just because defenses are so it's so lucky a lot of the times on the defense side of things when you grab a defense special teams, you get a lucky punt or kick return or a lucky block kick or something, or the interception touchdown. That's all fluky stuff. You can't project that happening. And I found myself more and more doing that in redraft leagues, is just pick up a new defense every week and don't worry about drafting one unless you're required to, then draft in the last round, and then just have no problem popping it out throughout the year.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like streaming defense is great. And you should not take your defense until the last pick. Like, the Niners defense is going to be good, but in the grand scheme of things, like I said, unless you know your scoring system and there's just huge points on like tackles, sacks, and if that's just elevated more. But most defenses are all the scoring system's just if they get a special teams or like a defensive touchdown. So sometimes you look at teams, team. Yeah, exactly. And even that's not even that huge of a scoring system. I even sometimes look at defenses that are okay, and then maybe like their special teams is just elite.
Right.
But we don't really have that much anymore with the kickoffs not getting returned as often, and punts are usually fair caught. So even the special teams aren't even a huge factor anymore.
I've seen a lot of leagues go to, instead of a team defense, the 3 IDPs, where you draft a lineman, a linebacker, and a defensive back. And I think I like that better anyway. I'd rather root for the individual than hope that the team does something fluky. And a little more strategy involved in that too. If you're drafting those guys, then you can do a more pinpoint job of seeing what their value is.
Yeah, and I like that, having 3 or 5. Like, we do 10, and then you have to have another one in the bonus. Like, so it's just a lot of defensive guys, and halfway through that, like, most of the guys in our league are like, I don't even know. Like, I've been printing one guy because he just 1 year he did a magazine and only had like 20, and it took forever for him to draft. So there for like 3 years, I just printed him. I made him an individual defensive player list. And I text my buddy and be like, hey, who do you not want me to put on this list? And then I keep like 2 or 3 guys off so he wouldn't know and stuff. Right. So it was funny, but yeah. 3 is kind of a good number.
I think 3 is a good number, yeah. Saquon Barkley signed a deal, and he didn't get much more than he was going to get. He only it's another like 900,000 or something, whatever. It's like $1 million more. All he gets for that, and so he misses that time, draws the line in the sand, does those things, talk about holding out, and now he does resign, which probably, by the way, pisses off like Josh Jacobs, I would think, because now Jacobs is like, what the hell, dude? We could have both been holding out for more money, and Barkley signs. But we know that the Giants signed James Robinson earlier, just a few days before this. So do you think James Robinson has any value now going forward? Is it just a Barkley handcuff? Is that all it is, you think? Or should you even consider him?
I think it mostly is a Barkley handcuff, but I think he has a value for a couple reasons. One, he has shown in the past that he's good. He had an 1,000-yard season, and then he averages 4.4 yards a carry, or 4.2 yards a carry for his career, and that was including last year where he was 2.9. So he's a couple years removed from the injury. Like I said, he's proven to be a competent back. And I look at it this way, where the Giants will probably not sign Barkley long-term after this year. I doubt it. So
they can tag him again next year if they want to.
So we'll see. Yeah, if they want to. But Robinson could be one of those who are like, hey, they may play him a little bit more than most backups just because, hey, let's see what we have at him. And if he shows he can do what Barkley can do somewhat relatively equivalent, then let's not spend a bunch on Barkley. So I think he does have some value, but he's just more of a late round flyer.
I think so too. Yeah. Is this the worst year to have the number 1 overall pick, or one of the worst? I should say the worst. That's good hyperbole there, but I was trying to think about it, because if you've got the number 1 pick in a PPR league now, Justin Jefferson seems like the pick. It seems very weird to say that you got to take that you bypass running backs and take in a redraft league PPR. God, it feels like it's Justin Jefferson, and that scares me to death. Taking wide receiver number 1 overall when there's really only 3 or 4 running backs that are going to be 3 down backs. It feels like.
Yeah, so it's weird this year because I'm like, I just did one again. I was on the bike at the Y, so I got to always plug that. So it's I think I was at 5. And I thought, okay, we'll see. And then, it was the normal 2. It was Chase, Jefferson, McCaffrey, Eckler. So I took Kupp just see how it would flow. But I'm like, even like 6, 7, like if I'm at 7, and all those guys go and you got Bijan Taylor, I'm like, I think that the sweet spot to be in, I think, is that 4 through 7. Once you get to 8, though, I think you're still looking at Tyreek Hill's down there, Chubb and stuff like that. But yeah, like if you look at it, I'll be happy. And then you get those back-to-backs. And then it really helps out in the 3rd, 4th round, especially the 4th round. Because if you get Jefferson at 1, you maybe could get Stevenson. I've seen a lot of Breece Hall going there at the end of the 2nd. Or you grab another like Olave. Wilson's kind of creeping up to the middle of the second now. But you could grab another receiver. But then if you're waiting for coming back around to you in the third or the fourth round for that running back or something is hard. So you could get a decent running back in the third, but you're still going to be kind of stretching, I think, to get like a Sanders at 3 in the third round. So it's a little dicey. I think most people are trying to probably try to get out of 1. And I've seen a lot here, a couple here recently that I've done that people are taking Chase 1. So it's weird.
I think Jefferson's
he only had 80. He only had 80 receptions last year. He's not going to be the receptions guy.
You mentioned Breece Hall. We saw news that Dalvin Cook meeting with the Jets and what could come of that. If Dalvin Cook goes there, that just destroys Breece Hall's value because they're not going to pay Cook to not carry the ball most of the time. If they get him, he's going to be the bulk of the carries, I believe. And Breece Hall's come off an injury as well, which also the Jets might say, okay, now really take your time coming back because we're good. We got Dalvin Cook. But yeah, if Dalvin goes there, I mean, Breece Hall's value just plummets for me.
Oh, 100% agree. I just texted my buddy about it too, and he agrees. He still likes Hall, but I think if for the Jets, for a football standpoint, it would be a great addition because they can use Cook this year, let Hall come in sparingly, get back full for the injury, and then they got him long term, which is what they want. So I think it'd be a huge pickup for the Jets, and I think that could put them into the top 3 AFC teams for the Super Bowl. I think that would jump them with that defense and everything else. But I think it still mucks it up though, because I don't know like Cook's going to get a full load though. I think they'll still let Hall do his thing as well. And Cook was never, I don't think, a third down back either. So it just kind of messes things up. And you never know with Aaron Rodgers, just end up audibling out to a pass play or something at the goal line too. So for the Jets fans and for football there, it'd be good. But yeah, it just mucks the water up in that backfield if he gets there.
When it comes to Bijan Robinson and some of the mock drafts you've done, or even drafts you're going to do coming up, in a PPR redraft league, at what point do you take Robinson? Like, where do you have to be picking in the draft for you to say, to confidently say, I want, or does it happen at all? Do you have a very little confidence in using a first round pick on him?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the first round pick. My dogs are here and they're getting all crazy. So I might have to text my sons, hey, let them out. It's fine. So, I have no problem drafting Bijan like anywhere in a redraft league. Ideally, I would go as early. I like him better than Eckler. I just like him better than Eckler.
Right.
So I have 0 shares of Eckler. Like I go out of my way to not draft him. Like, so I would take, and I kind of like him better than Chase too. So, but if you're talking like, so I would take him at 2. But that's just me personally. Really? Yeah, I would, but ideally I think if you want Bijan, you want to sit at least at 5. I don't think he's going to go in most redraft leagues unless you're like drafting with Bijan's mom or something going in the top 4. So if you're sitting 5, 6, 7, because I see a lot of Cups there, Kelsey shows up, Barkley's back in the mix. I was in a 10 team. It was PPR where it was guy went 10-1. It was Bijan and Jonathan Taylor, and I was like, that's pretty solid. Now I can't remember.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Receivers, but that's if you get Bijan at 10, that's good. But I think if you really want Bijan, you want it that 5-6 area because I don't think he's going top 4 in most redrafts, and probably not. I don't think so.
It scares me. It does scare me a little bit taking a rookie running back, and when you got, and the argument is you could say it hurts his value because the quarterback sucks, or you could say it helps his value because the quarterback sucks because he'll get more running opportunities, or is it that the quarterback sucks so much you don't have to worry about the quarterback passing game and they can focus more on the running game as far as defending it? And you got Tyler Algier there who rushed for 1,000 yards last year as well. I think for me, I think around 7 is where I feel comfortable taking Robinson. Just because I don't put that much stock in a rookie running back. That's my only problem with it. Yeah. And sometimes running backs are great. Sometimes sometimes they hit a wall and they're terrible. It just kind of happens. But I think 7 is where I'd probably feel comfortable taking him. And I am a Bijan Robinson owner in our other league there as well. So
right. And the team too is kind of weird when you have to get Bijan early, because you get like Tyreek Hill in the same spot and then get probably Ramondre Stevenson in the second. So it's just a weird build too when you get Bijan. I have to take him that early.
Kadarius Toney had surgery. It was announced that he had surgery to repair a partially torn meniscus. That just happened on Tuesdays, when that is. So not sure how long he's going to be out. But how does that affect your opinion of Sky Moore?
Sky Moore's interesting because last year, like, people were going crazy that he went to the Chiefs and we're all excited for him, and then he just didn't really get on the field enough. But when he did, he looked pretty good. I think this helps Sky Moore because I think now it makes him the number one. If Toney misses time, Sky Moore is going to be the number one because MVS is not a number one guy. I even like Sky Moore with Toney there, but I think with Toney there's so many other things they could do with him, and they were just going to have Sky Moore probably just stretch the field. But if Toney misses a lot of time, it really helps my Chiefs aren't making the playoffs take. So that's good. But no, Sky Moore, like you look at that roster though, you got Mahomes and Kelsey, but the rest of that roster, like, you know, like if you just looked at that roster and they were like on the Giants, you were like, this is not a good roster. But so I don't know, like Sky Moore.
It's not that much different than last year though, is it?
But that's the thing. It's not. They're losing Juju, and I think that's it. Like, I can't. So like they do it with these season.
Edwards-Helaire is their running back. Yeah, and Edwards-Helaire is their running back going into last year. And obviously Pacheco, 7th round pick, came out and did well. And so it's you look at the roster, but it's the same way we looked at it last year in August. Yeah. It's like same damn thing almost. And somehow Mahomes and
they'll do Andy Reid figure it out again. Yeah, and I know that they lost Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator, but I think Reid really runs the show. And
I think so too.
I don't think that's going to be a huge deal. So they'll still be fine. I think Sky Moore is. If Toney misses time, Sky Moore is going to be a kind of sneaky pick there.
So training camp battles now. I want to talk about some of these now. In Buffalo, we'll start with them. The running back situation, you got James Cook, the second-year back, who had some moments last year near the end of the season. Damian Harris, who comes in, was a New England back for a couple years there and did well there when he split time with Ramondre Stevenson. And who do you think ultimately wins that job, or which one of the two do you like best for the upcoming season?
I think Cook probably wins the job. They drafted him. He's more electric.
What is second round pick?
Tim Harris. I think so. Yeah, he was in that second round in the 40s. So I think they want to give him. He's looked good when he's been there, and he can catch ball in the backfield. I like Harris just because the ADP for Cook is 81, and Harris is 112. Okay. So you like
the value of Harris better.
I do like the value of Harris better. Plus, I think where Cook's at, I think there's just a lot of other guys I like there. And I usually end up usually getting a quarterback there at some point. So I like it, and I think Harris is probably going to be a goal line back too, so he could end up having some sort of like Jamal Williams type role, which that late in the draft. So I think they're both viable. They're both draftable. And if the spot's right, I like Harris better just because you get him 3 rounds later. But I think Cook wins that job out of the training camp.
Yeah, I think Cook does as well. And I always have a hard time gauging former Patriot running backs because it seems like they do well with New England when they have their moments. And Harris did certainly do well at times in New England. But then they get out of that system, get out in front of Belichick. A lot of the times they don't look the same. And that's my only concern with that is that I think Cook does win the battle as well. I still like Cook more. Even at 81, I think I'd like to have Cook, depending, I guess, on who all went in the first 80 picks, who's available there, what my team looks like. But I think Cook does win the job. San Francisco, the quarterback job, they say Brock Purdy's now cleared to throw and all this stuff, and you've still got Trey Lance there. And then they got who's the third one they got there? They got a third guy there, too. Who they get there? A quarterback with Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Darnold's their third one. And Darnold, I don't think, is a threat to either one of these guys. But Purdy against Lance, I think it's Purdy's job to lose. And I think as long as he's healthy, he will be the starting quarterback there. But I don't think it matters. Like, Shanahan has shown me that he could – there was the old saying, the old thing that I think Bear Bryant was talking about somebody. I can't remember who he was talking about. He said he could take his guys and beat your guys, or he take your guys and beat his guys. And that's kind of why I look at Shanahan too. Like with the quarterbacks he's had to use the last couple of years,
Yeah.
Garoppolo looked great under it. And Cook. I'm sorry, not Cook. Purdy looked great last year. So I feel like Purdy's going to win it, but I don't think it matters whoever wins it. That's the one you want to draft.
Yeah, and I think Purdy will, unless something happens. I think he looked good last year. My big thing with him is he was Mr. Relevant. So was it just one of those Linsanity type? He just had a good run, and he's really.
Remember Dom Majkowski? Remember that guy, exactly. Dom Majkowski from the Packers?
Exactly.
Right, it's kind of like that.
So, and they drafted Lance too. I think they're both viable, but like you said, it doesn't matter. You just want to have whoever's there. So I think, and you could get Purdy super late. He's probably 15th to 20 off the board now that he's healthy. And I think Lance is still a stash guy, even in redraft, if you have space for him, because, if something happens to Purdy, Lance, he can do it with his legs. So I like them both, but I don't think, like you said, it's not going to matter, and it's not going to affect any of the skill players around them.
Let's look at Indy now. You got Anthony Richardson, the rookie out of Florida, the very inexperienced rookie, and Gardner Minshew out there for Indy. And I think Minshew's a starter week 1. I think Richardson will get a chance to play at some point, but I don't think they want to throw Richardson right into it right away. I think they'd be more likely to put him in after 4 or 5 games, or maybe after their bye week or something like that. But I think Minshew's probably the guy there. But regardless, I think this Indy offense is going to struggle.
I think they can. Yeah, I think if somehow Richardson wins the job week 1, it kind of puts him up a lot higher on that. And then I don't think Minshew's even if Minshew plays half, I don't think he's drafted. Like you said, outside of Pittman, they really don't have any weapons, and they're going to run the ball. It's interesting, and we will. I would like to do a podcast on new coaches and then new offense coordinators. I was looking into that just to kind of see. And then Indy obviously got new coach Steichen, but they got a new offensive coordinator, and it's one of the greatest names in pro football in Jim Bob Cooter. So he was with the Lions and moved them around. So it's going to be interesting to see how we use it. But yeah, I think it's one of those. I think Richardson is a late pick. And then Minshew's just not, but
in redraft leagues,
yeah.
And we talked about in dynasty leagues, you take them higher, but much higher.
Oh yeah. Well, I have them in 2, so that I'm in, and so but I think too, Pittman is a weird one where I have him way down. I have that's one of the things I could ask for a list. I have Pittman in our league, and I got to choose between him, Cortland Sutton, and Chris Godwin to keep one. And they're just all in horrible situations. And, it's I look like I had a little time. I got the same situation by running back where do I want to keep Swift or Madison? So,
those are tough calls.
Yeah. So Pittman, even with Minshew, I just don't, I'm not drafting Pittman, and he's got a good value, but I'm I just don't know. So that's one to watch, just because if Richardson's week 1, just his legs alone, and they'll probably just run that. But, they'll do
it's a weak division they're in. I just think Indy's offense is going to struggle all year long.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to happen. But Washington, you got Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett out there. Howell's the one they said, hey, he's our starter coming in. You got Ron Rivera said that, but Brissett's going to compete with the job. I think they're going to give Howell every chance to keep the job. And I think that Washington, with all the turmoil going on, I believe that they feel like this is probably a throwaway year anyway for them. They didn't pick up the 5th-year option on Chase Young. They haven't found a way to utilize McLaurin or Curtis Samuel the way they should. I think they're going to give Howell every chance to keep that job. I think both these guys are undraftable for me, unless you're in a 32 team. Actually, unless you're in a 34 team. Right. If you're in a 34 team league, then I'd probably take Howell. But other than that, probably not.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Brissett there is good, just to have that guy to come in.
Sure.
If Howell's not there. I think they like him. But I have no idea what to expect from this guy. He could be good or he could be horrible. And so it causes everyone else to not have any kind of value. And I'm with you. I think Washington realized, hey, listen, Eagles are in our division, Cowboys are in our division, the Giants made the playoffs last year. New ownership. Let's just let these guys play. And why not see what you have in him in a year like this, where you're not going anywhere? Give him a year.
You know what Brissett is?
You do, and it's nice. And then if Howe just looks horrible, like Malik Willis last year, then okay, we don't want to ruin him. We'll bring Brissett in, and I think Brissett is better for the wide receivers.
Yeah,
but maybe not. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I think Brissett is. But the thing with Howe though too is like if you're Washington and you play Howe, and you say, look, you're our starter off season long. If it works out, he does great. You made the right call.
Yeah. If
it doesn't work out and he's terrible, you've got a high draft pick next year with some quarterbacks coming back through and you can always grab.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're in a good situation.
So you're the Bears correspondent here in Columbus, Ohio. So I'll let you take this next one with the running back situation. Let me know what you think about the Bears running back situation.
I kind of just want to stay away from it. Like, I like Herbert, but I liked Herbert when he was a change of pace back for Montgomery. I think he's electric. It's interesting when you get these running backs like this, and when you don't have a guy like Jonathan Taylor, but you got a running quarterback where he's going to have 8 to 12 carries. That takes those carries away, and I think Fields are going to have probably 8 to 12 designed carries, or at least RPOs where, hey, if it's there, take it. So that takes away that number of carries to your running backs, and I think they're just going to use all of them. I think Herbert's going to start. I think Foreman's a nice guy to have as just a backup on a team, but he's not fantasy worthy. Johnson's the one that I'm in, and again, the only guy I would take in a redraft is Herbert. I just think he's got the only value. Johnson's interesting to me in like a dynasty league because I think people don't realize how good he is because he was behind Bijan. So I think he can do a lot, and I would stay away from the situation entirely. But in redraft leagues, I would take Herbert, be the only one I would take, and you can get him relatively late. He's probably in there in the Damian Harris range. You probably get him like rounds 8, 9, 10, 11 and stuff. But he'd be the only one. But as a Bears fan, I'm excited because it's they're all solid, and so you could just kind of throw them all in and keep them fresh and that kind of thing.
I've started to take the cutthroat approach in dynasty leagues when it comes to running backs. Like if I want a rookie running back, I'll have him for the first few years of his career, then I'll cut him loose and get another rookie running back. And I know it's the way the GMs and owners work it now in the NFL, as evidenced by what's happened with Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and even Dalvin Cook to an extent. But so, yeah, I'm with you on Johnson being the one to grab. If I'm in a dynasty league, in a redraft league, I can see getting Herbert and see what happens. He was effective when he got the ball.
Yeah.
It's just a question how much he gets the ball. And was he effective because it was change of pace or not? And Justin Fields is still going to run the ball a lot. I know Justin Fields says he's going to pass for 4,000 yards this year. If I gave you an option, would you bet on Justin Fields throwing for 4,000 or rushing for 1,000? I think you and I both take rushing for 1,000 be more likely.
Yeah, I would. And I think so. I think they're going to try to pass ball more, but how can you not have a weapon like that and use it? So I just I don't think the Bears will ever have a 4,000 yard passer in their entire history.
Where do you have Fields ranked in a PPR league? Where would you have Fields ranked as far as your quarterbacks go? We talked about this already or not?
No, I don't think so. So I think it's pretty obvious. It's Mahomes, Hurts, Allen in some order, probably that order, and then
you got Herbert, Burrow.
Well, even Lamar Jackson. So it's usually in these drafts, it's usually those three kind of go together. Then it's usually Burrow, Jackson go off next, and then Fields. So it's Burrow, Jackson, Fields are the next three that go off.
So you think Fields is 6?
I have him over Lamar Jackson. Not just as a Bears fan. I think he's younger. I think he's more electric, and I think the Ravens are really going to try to throw the ball more. Yeah. So I have him at 5, and sometimes I would even take him over Burrow just because Burrow can't run. But I like Herbert. Yeah, I like Herbert. Yeah, exactly. I like Herbert kind of better than Burrow a little bit because I think that team's just going to throw the ball.
I think
more.
I do too.
And even Trevor Lawrence. So it's kind of weird because it usually comes down to I don't take a quarterback early, and it's usually Lawrence, Fields, and Herbert are all there for me at least for 1 or 2 rounds. So you kind of have your pick of those, and so it just depends on what you're doing. But he's in that 5 to 7.
I think Fields will get overdrafted this year. I think that people will take him a little bit earlier than I would like to. On my board, I've got him as the 8th best quarterback, but I think he'll end up being the 5th or 6th one off the board. You know what I mean? So I think I think he will be overdrafted because there's so much hype about, because he set this record, the rushing yards and over 1,000 yards as a quarterback, and look how dynamic he was in the second half of the season and all these things. And he's going to throw for 4,000. And so all those things are out there. You got DJ Moore now. I think he'll get drafted earlier than I feel comfortable with. So I don't anticipate having much stock anywhere in Justin Fields, but I think he's like the 8th best quarterback on my list.
Yeah, he's there. And I agree with you too. Yeah, I agree with you too. Like he's just getting overdrafted for where I would want to draft him. I don't want to draft him in the 5th or 6th round.
Well, especially we're in Columbus, Ohio too. So if we do like live drafts with people around here, our friends and stuff, some Buckeye goober will take him earlier than we want.
Right.
See Eichenberger, Bill. Okay, Dallas tight end situation. What do you make of that?
I threw that on there just because if you look at what I gotta look at my notes here. The Dallas tight end spot's really been a pretty decent, spot for tight ends. If you look at the last 4 years, they were the tight end 11, tight end 3, tight end 17, and tight end 12. And that tight end 12 was Jason Witten, so
right.
Old guy. So it's interesting because I think whoever wins the job is probably going to be the main guy. The one guy I like is Jake Ferguson, the rookie. I know Hendershot had a couple decent like primetime games. Because I remember doing the single game DFS, and he was like huge. If you had him in the captain spot or rostered him, like he got like a 7-yard touchdown, and people are going nuts. So, but I think Ferguson is the guy. They're really all probably if you're totally punting tight end. I think Ferguson's one to maybe take a shot on, just because I think that offense is gonna be better, and I think they're gonna throw the ball a lot. Back from a couple years ago, remember when like Prescott was on that ridiculous pace, they were scoring like 40 points a game and losing.
Yeah,
I think they could have that again this year.
If I gave you the choice, Ferguson or Laporta out of Detroit, which one would you take?
Ooh, I like them both.
Yeah,
I think I probably would take Laporta just because I think that offense is going to be more sound, if that makes sense. And I think they're in a better division to put some points up with. So I think Laporta, because I think Laporta is going to have that job, and there's really no other competition for him as well.
Right. And they threw the ball to Hawkinson when they had him. So I think that they will continue to do that. I'm with you. I like Laporta more than Ferguson. I took a flyer in one of my leagues in a dynasty league, dynasty league with Oriole, and I think that I took it just a stab at him, and I'm glad I did. We'll see what happens with it, but it might not be anything. But I figured the upside on him was pretty big. Miami's the only teams that Dalvin Cook is looking at Dalvin Cook. But let's say Dalvin Cook does not sign with Miami. What do you want to do about their winning situation?
That was an interesting one because they're all kind of like the same guy. And you got Mostert and Wilson, who have proven in a San Francisco system where McDaniel came from to put up some big numbers, but they're both injury prone. I think Mostert's better than Wilson. But then you bring in Devon Achane, who is so fast, so quick. And I think even if, let's say, Mostert gets the starting job, they're going to design plays for Achane to get him out there. They might even put him in the slot. So Achane's really the only one I am drafting in redraft leagues. And it's you get him late, it's not even going to cost you anything. I just figure he could get you, a couple, 3 to 4 receptions, bust a 40-yarder off or something like that. And I just don't have faith in the other guys that they'll stay. Not that I have faith in anyone staying healthy, but these guys have shown. And, I just think it's one of those situations like the Bears where you just kind of stay away from unless you hear something come out of camp like, hey, Jeff Wilson's the guy.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of like I look at it too. It's not, unless I get definitive news somewhere, I'm probably going to steer clear unless it gets late in the draft. And Achane after that, at that point, I would look at him later. But I'm not going to seek out a Dolphins running back until I've got some clarity, if there is any, on what they could do. I feel like we're looking at an old-time New England situation there, as far as even a Philly situation, as far as running backs go, where you're not really sure who start each week. It's going to be a flavor of the day, and that's when you're going to want to have. So, all right, that was good. You can follow him on Twitter at Chad Ochocinco. Follow me on Twitter at That Happens. This is Fantasy Football Now, Fantasy Sports, powered by the DSP Media Network. Chad, thanks for the time, brother. We'll do it again soon. Okay.
Sounds good.